Welcome back to CBS Sports HQ. Jamie Eisenberg, Dave Richard, and Tommy Tran with you, targeting the sits for Week 1 in the NFL season. And Dave, I'll give you first word here because you've targeted a guy that just has been seemingly faded all summer and even this week, and it's Najee Harris. I mean, this guy's getting more fade value than the packed barber shop. Najee Harris going up against the Niners this week. Oh.
I think he's going to give his fantasy managers a haircut if they start him. So I'm nervous about him. There will be matchups this year where Najee Harris will be outstanding. Games where it looks like he can score, maybe even pick up a lot of carries in the second half. I don't think the 49ers are one of those games. And even if you look at the last 5 games of 2022 for Najee Harris, he averaged over 15 PPR points per game. That's pretty good. 30% of his production came from touchdowns. So if you think Najee Harris is going to score, go ahead, start him against San Francisco. They're one of the toughest run defenses in the league. If you don't think he's going to score, expect around 10 or 11 PPR fantasy points. I think we can do better than that.
And Jamie, we talked about it in the other segment. You want to target weak defenses, and obviously you go up a San Francisco defense, it gives you a little bit of pause, right?
For sure. You know, and they got reinforcements clearly with their best pass rusher, best defensive lineman coming back in Nick Bosa. So this is an interesting game to see what happens, because if they can't run, how much will they play Jaylen Warren? And that's the biggest thing. You know, will they use him as just a third down back? Will they use him more than that? You know, that's the story that we're looking at with the Steelers. It's going to be one of those situations, though, where this is going to be a low-scoring game. You know, both these defenses are fantastic. So Najee should still get the majority of touches for Pittsburgh, but really you need him to fall into the end zone. And if he doesn't score, you know, the 49ers allowed 6 rushing touchdowns last year. So pretty tried and true for what their defense has been.
Even I have to admit, if my decision is between Najee and Jaylen Warren, I'll take Najee there. I don't feel good about it. But I also think this is a game where Kenny Pickett's going to throw a lot, and it might be a lot of short passes to try and negate that pass rush that the 49ers are going to have in his grill. That offensive line is still a little unsettled at both tackle spots.
Tyler Lockett, a lot of people have him wide receiver 2 or flex, and maybe not, if you have other options, bump him in, or what do you think?
I love him as a flex. I will start him as a flex, but calling him a top 24 receiver, I can't go there now that Jackson Smith and Jigba has been cleared. And if you think about the role that Smith and Jigba is going to play, he's going to line up in the slot. That's where Lockett lined up a decent amount of the time last year. So I think that Smith and Jigba being on the field will hurt Tyler Lockett. Of course, there's a chance that Lockett against this Rams defense could haul in a 60-yard touchdown. We've seen him do that before, probably against the Rams. But I don't know if I want to count on that as a number 2 wide receiver. I think that floor could be a little bit lower than normal, especially in a game that the Seahawks could build a nice lead in and then just let Kenneth Walker, take over in the second half. So he's on my flex list, not a top 24 receiver.
Same question then, Christian Kirk.
Exact same answer. He's a flex wide receiver, especially in PPR. This is a great matchup for everybody in Jacksonville. There's no question about it. But the one spot, the one area on the field that Indianapolis has a semblance of some reliability as far as coverage goes is in the slot with Kenny Moore. And I think Christian Kirk is going to end up playing in the slot the most for Jacksonville. Remember, he scored 3 touchdowns in 2 games against them last year. That was without Calvin Ridley on the field. Ridley's going to get a huge opportunity to get some numbers against this Colts team.
So, Jamie, do you have any thoughts on either Christian Kirk or Tyler Lockett? Final word here on Dave's selection.
I'd be starting both. And really, you know, you see 26 here for Kirk. There's like 35 number 2 wide receivers, you know, so it's very difficult to fit them all into the top 24. But yes, I think anytime you look at it, first off, these are 2 of the worst defenses that we're going to be talking about all season long. The Rams are going to be absolutely atrocious. I feel bad for Aaron Donald with the, you know, like he shows up to the party, he looks around and he goes, really? Like this is what I'm stuck with? So it's going to be
he's going to head out.
Easy situation, I think. Even with Smith and Jigba there, Dino Smith is going to pick apart this team. He had one of his best games last year was against this Rams defense when Jalen Ramsey was there. And so now you're taking Jalen Ramsey off the field. All 3 receivers are really in play, but the top 2 guys, Metcalf and Lockett, should eat and eat well. And then when it comes to Christian Kirk, Trevor Lawrence is going to have an MVP assault this season. He's going to go out there and put on a show, and it starts this week. And so the Colts defense, Shaq Leonard may not be there. He's dealing with the concussion protocol. He's really their still best defender. And so, yes, their slot corner is probably their best corner. They're going to move those guys around. Christian Kirk's going to still play in 2 receiver sets. He's not going to only be limited in the slot. Like Dave said, 3 touchdowns against this team last year. He's going to have a big game as well. So this is all about Trevor Lawrence, his weapons. You should be starting them against the Colts.
I got Shaq Leonard in an IDP league. I got to maintain that and monitor what he's got going there.
I think he's been cleared to play.
Okay.
I think he'll be all right.
He wasn't cleared as of yesterday, so we'll find out.
I think he got cleared
All right,
today.
let's get to Jamie's Week 1 sit. So we teased Anthony Richardson, Jamie, and again, if you selected him, hopefully you got a good backup like a Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff, or Geno Smith. You hope for the upside, just probably not happening this week.
And it's funny the names that you mentioned, because a lot of people, Tommy, based on our average draft position, drafted those guys ahead of Anthony Richardson with the idea of not necessarily starting him. I hope, and I don't say this often, I hope I'm wrong. I want to see Anthony Richardson come out and just light up that Jaguars defense. However, he's going to get it done mostly with his legs is probably the way that it's going to happen. So let's see him go out and run for 80-plus yards. Let's see him find the end zone twice. He'll probably have a turnover or two, and it'll look a little ugly in how he's throwing the ball. But he's going to do some things on Sunday that you're going to go, oh, my God, I can't wait to see more of this. And again, I just don't want to trust him in his first start. I do think this Jaguars defense is going to be one of the better ones, certainly in the conference, maybe even in the league if they play the way that they're playing, and especially playing with a league where those pass rushers can just pin their ears back and go after him. But he's going to do some special things. I just think for this week, you want to take a cautious approach and sit him.
Yeah, the immediate recency bias is Justin Fields. Obviously, you see that with Richardson, high pick, but whether they get the same upside or not remains to be seen. Breece Hall, we talked about Javonte Williams. Breece Hall, maybe not this week. Going up against that Buffalo defense.
You heard Robert Saleh say snap count, and I immediately got scared. So it was good to see that Dalvin Cook got cleared today, and he's going to be probably the lead rusher there for the Jets this week. So that tells you also where Breece Hall's at right now. We've been saying it all summer. Just take a cautious approach with him. Don't draft him to be a starter. But a lot of people, unfortunately, you drafted him in the 3rd round, you drafted him in the 4th round, depending on when you had your draft. To me, I don't even know if he's a good flex. It's a very good Buffalo defense. And then you're talking about the potential of him being limited with his touches. So I'm going to make the switch and put Dalvin Cook ahead of Breece Hall just based on the news today. So if I had both those guys, I'd be playing Dalvin over Breece Hall. I think by the end of the season, hopefully his knee is okay and we get the best of Breece Hall that we're waiting to see. But for week 1, I'm out. Yeah. I'm totally out.
I'd want to be out if I could, but some people might have to choose between the two. I'll still lean a little bit toward Breece because I think he's just a little bit more of a game breaker. Cook last year, his efficiency was way down compared to his previous highs. This is an opportunity to go out and start the other receivers I said to sit. Christian Kirk, Tyler Lockett, easy to start those guys ahead of any Jets running back.
All right, guys. Games that count start tonight. Our thanks to Dave Richard and Jamie Eisenberg with the sits for week 1 from a fantasy perspective. And again, for more dilemmas that you might have filling those rosters and then which players to choose over the others, make sure to check out Fantasy Football Today. They just taped the pod. AFC home games were on display. And then on Fridays, NFC home games with the fellas. Make sure to check them out today.